Hi, I'm Jeff Huber from Breakthrough Basketball, and in this video, you're going to learn why the flow of motion is right for your team and how to teach it. The beauty of motion is the freedom it gives your players, making it unpredictable for the defense. That can also make it challenging to teach and drill, but it doesn't have to be that way. Here you'll see Division III National Championship coach Matt Lewis explain why flow motion works, how it generates great shots, and 2 progressive drills he uses to teach his system. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that you can get instant access to a free printable PDF of 7 drills for championship practices, featuring diagrams, descriptions, and bonus tips. Just click on the link in the description. Now let's get started.
When I'm trying to process, do we stick with motion? Does a new coach try and transition to motion? Why in the heck would you do that? Why would you give up a ton of the control that you have as a coach and put a bunch of freedom onto the players? I think that motion and this flow concept is just a really fun way to play the game. Your players are going to enjoy it. Your assistant coaches are going to enjoy the opportunities they have to learn, grow, and teach. You as a coach are going to be challenged just in your understanding of the game of basketball, how to teach it, how to stay up with new concepts that you want to try and implement into it. But your players, your coaches, your program is going to really enjoy what motion offers. Another benefit to running motion offense, it's a system, it's a style of play that allows your team to get better and better as the year goes, and then over the course of a few years, over the course of a career of a set of players. Some systems, some styles of play, they may look really good in November when you're practicing, in December, those early season. You get to January and February though, and you're doing the same thing over and over again, and teams start to figure out. You may have some really good players that play a bunch as sophomores, and then as juniors and seniors, if you haven't evolved much within your concepts, those teams, those opponents that you're playing against really get to know your system. With motion, it's constantly growing and evolving. And so we're big believers that, we're going to teach in October when we start practice, in November through those early games, in December. There might be some rough parts because we're given a ton of freedom. But by the time we get to January and February, it's just going to get better and better and better. And then as we retain players, as those guys get older in our program, as their skills continue to develop, motion's just going to get better and better. The hope is that you continue to teach it at such a level where it can be passed down to that next group of guys, and hopefully those early season growing pains don't last quite as long. So we've talked about having a ton of fun as a benefit. We've talked about it's a thing that can help you grow. Well, how about just chasing success at the end of a season? All of us want to play in the postseason, make a deep run in the postseason, whatever that may look like for the level that you're at. We want to perform well at the biggest time of our year. I think motion puts us in that position. It is very difficult to prepare for. If you're playing in a tournament format and there's a quick turnaround, teams just have to be good at defending. They can't come up with a game plan in a couple days to guard motion. They've just got to have really good concepts. If you're playing a conference opponent for the second time, and you run a bunch of plays, they may have every play, every call that you run. If you're running motion and just teaching your guys how to play, the conference opponent doesn't have a ton they can scout. They might try and learn some personnel, some tendencies, but your guys are just going to go out there and execute your motion, your flow at a high level, and that's very difficult to guard. And so we believe that motion puts you in a great position at the end of the year, if you stay true to it, where you can chase championship success. From a coach, a personal standpoint, I think motion's a very rewarding thing to teach and to implement. If you're a young coach and you're teaching motion concepts to youth players, whether they're in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, or you're a high school coach that's trying to develop those young men from JV to varsity or varsity to college. If you're a college coach like myself and you're trying to help guys get better each year within your program, it's really fun to see a young man or a young woman learn the game and then implement that without having to be told where to run on the court. When you turn over freedom to a player and all of a sudden you've taught them for 2 straight years these different concepts, and then you go turn around and watch them execute those on the court, and it's just because they're making those decisions with and for their teammates, that's a really fun and rewarding thing. So if you're a coach that loves to teach and see that young person develop and grow, I think motion allows you that great opportunity. When those guys are processing, what are we going to do to generate a great shot? We try and put things into categories. So they're kind of picking things from a category. The first one is just, we call it getting linked up. So if we're yelling flow and the guys are running down the court and they're getting into actions, if we feel like they're not screening enough off the ball, we will tell guys to get linked up. And I don't think that was by some great design. I think that's just a word that we all started using, and now we all know what it means. So getting linked up, what is that? It's setting a screen that does not involve the basketball, a down screen, a back screen, a flare screen. Sometimes it might be a combination of those things, but getting linked up for us means screening off the basketball, and then you would receive the ball if that action generates some sort of advantage. The next category that our guys would try and pull something out of to create an advantage would just be a two-man game. If the two-man game, all that is just involves the basketball. So it could be a ball screen, a handoff, a dribble handoff. It might be a dribble pitch. And then there's something also called a rub cut, which NBA and some different levels, they might call it a ghost screen or a blur cut. We've just called it a rub cut. So a number of things fall into that two-man game category, but it involves the basketball. So the distinction there is linked up is without the ball, two-man game involves the basketball. And our guys are trying to pick between those two categories what action within those might be really good given who they are, who their teammates are, and then where's the ball at, and again, kind of time and score, what the defense is doing. But simplify it for them. There's two categories of actions that they can play within. The other category that we do have, and it depends a little bit on the personnel. Some guys choose to get into this, some guys don't. Sometimes we might emphasize this category a little bit more depending on what the other team does defensively. We might just get into a really good flow, and this category is working for us. This category we just call three-man games. And this involves three guys, and it could be the ball or not the ball. So it could be maybe a stagger screen away, and we've got a couple nicknames for some of the actions within a stagger. It might be a combination of a back screen to a down screen, or a back screen to a flare screen, where the same guy is screening twice in a row, or a combination of three are screening for each other. It might be a back screen that leads to a handoff. There's three guys involved in that action. So we've got linked up, we've got a two-man game that involves the ball, and then a three-man game. We just named it three-man games because it involves three guys. And again, that is a little bit more dependent on where we're at with our motion. We're not necessarily going to spend a ton of time on three-man games early in the process. Now we're just going to look at it in a 4-on-0 setting where our guys have a lot of freedom. We can always simplify. So within this 4-on-0, if you just want to start with a down screen, you can very easily just dictate where that ball goes and set a down screen. You can say, all right, we need to work on screening for our passer. We can mandate that the ball goes from the wing to the top and set a flare screen or a back screen for that passer. For our guys, we just kind of take the training wheels off and we just say, whatever action you want, let's work on it. And so they just have to communicate and get into separate actions. And so we'll take a look at it. Likely at some point we're going to need to slow it down. All right, let's do a little bit more of these type actions. But for now, I just want you to see us jump right into it and see what happens. And then we can take a peek at a slower level as we need to here. So 4-on-0 flow. The basic alignment before we go is ball on a wing. It can be either wing and then they're going to play. But you've got wing, top wing, and a corner. Or you might see Townsend down on a block. So kind of a wing, top, wing, and a block. These are kind of our two alignments that we get to a decent amount. So as that ball comes to the top, you're just going to see different actions. Ball to the top, you might see that wide down screen that we play out of, right? Go ahead and you guys step backwards there. Let's say right now the ball's with Spang. Okay, as the ball comes to the top, we might want to screen for our passer there. Okay, so we've got that high flare screen. Might play out of that. Go ahead and reload, you guys. We might also play out a ball with Spang. Ball comes to top. Actually, I apologize. Townsend's now on the block, and he sets a back screen for his passer. So we're going to see a variety of actions here. All these could lead to a two-man game, guys. Okay, let's take one look here just with some serious pace. You guys do whatever you want. All right, here we go. They chose a back screen and then a rub cut. And now they're strong and balanced, and they're reacting to penetration. Okay, awesome. Go one more rep here, guys. Same group, same four, wilt, same four. Down screen, so now as the ball comes to the top, that timed up down screen, and it's going right to that handoff game. So now they've just combined a couple of the things from 3-on-0 together, and then 4-on-0 just gives you that extra player that's reacting to penetration, timing up a cut, or holding space. We're gonna take a look at 4-on-4 with live play. All right, here we go. Timed up down screen there with a little rub cut. Very nice, good, strong, and balanced. Awesome. Right, so that's a win for gold. Now they just transition quickly. They get themselves organized very quickly into that next thing. Ball at the top, down screen, handoff. They flipped it and they went ball screen. The defense went under, and so they flipped and they set a ball screen. Good balance from Wilt. That was a late clock, shot clock. So that's a shot that we're very comfortable with as we're getting later into a shot clock there. Reminder to talk on the base when we get late clock. We're starting with 20. Once we get to 10, communicate. Here we go. Two-man game with some serious space over there. Keep reacting, good. We're getting late clock. Great balance. Really nice, really nice. That's right, finish it. Good, next rep, next rep. Towns, don't be afraid to fire that thing over here, and inside out. Okay, so quickly get themselves organized. Ball to the top, screen for our passer. There he has a wide down screen and a pop, post touch. Very nice, good job, Joe, good job, Joe. We haven't talked specific post spacing yet. I'll break that down in a second for you. Here we go. Good, back screen. Little two-man game. Really good outside hand finish there from Jack. If you go back and watch our elbow finishing, that's a finish you see all the time in elbow finishing.
We hope you enjoyed this flow motion offense video. If you want instant access to 7 drills for championship practices, make sure to click the link in the description so you can gain access to a free PDF featuring diagrams, descriptions, and bonus tips. Again, if you incorporate these drills into your practices, you will see improvement in every area of your team, making them championship caliber. Make sure to click and subscribe and then click the bell button so you're the first to know when we release more new videos. Thanks for watching.